Welcome to our first and only episode of our podcast where we're going to talk about romantic relationships in college and how different aspects could make or break the relationship.
So, why is it that some couples seem as if they're destined for each other and will go the distance, while others are likely to drift apart?
The sociology of romantic relationships demonstrate that love is not just fate and chemistry, but rather all the underlying factors that people may not be aware of.
Sociologists consider factors like race, gender roles, class, culture, and the ways couples meet all shape how a relationship starts, but also how successful one may be.
In this video, our purpose is for viewers to learn and understand how different backgrounds of people affect their romantic relationships. We want our viewers to think deeply about what a normal relationship looks like to them.
In their mind, what aspect of someone makes them more appealing to date? Additionally, we want listeners to branch out to others that they might not normally talk to in hopes of finding a potential successful relationship or maybe just a really good friend.
So, what truly determines the success of a relationship?
Hi, my name is Eleanor, and I will be discussing and diving into the details of how people in romantic relationships meet. The way people in relationships first meet each other can have a big impact on the overall success and length of that relationship.
Did you find a chapter that relates to the idea?
Yeah, Chapter 5 in the ebook Groups Network. If someone were to ask you how you know someone, you would have a story of how you met. This goes with every person in your life. The text lists many examples of narratives such as college or university, and all the people you know in that college would form part of that network. A school plays a critical role in the stories you have with most people in your life. We go to school for at least 18 years of our lives, and possibly more if you were to go to college.
That's so true, and most of the time that you end up going to the same high school with people you went to elementary school with.
Being in close proximity to the same groups of people for so many years eventually brings them together. It could also lead to meeting your friends' friends. Being in the 21st century, there are so many ways in meeting a partner than someone born in the previous generations could even imagine. In the article, Online Dating Outstrips Family, Friends, as a Way to Meet a Partner, written by Mary Beth King, she discusses the trends of how heterosexual couples have met. According to research conducted by Professor Ruben Jack Thomas of the Sociology Department at the University of New Mexico, traditional methods of meeting partners have been replaced by online dating. Ever since the 2000s, meeting your significant other through online dating apps have skyrocketed.
Yeah, I've lost track of how many dating apps there are. There's also so many other ways people meet online, like online games, chat rooms, and social media.
One of the main points in Thomas's research was relationships that were formed online tend to marry faster. This is because those who are using online dating apps have already made the decision to find someone and hopefully settle down. While on the other hand, relationships that were formed offline might have sprung on them unexpectedly when they weren't necessarily looking for someone to date.
I never thought about it that way.
Offline couples may not have been mentally stable or ready for a relationship, but they decided to jump into one anyway. This could already have a negative effect on a new and upcoming relationship. In addition to the information about online dating, an article from Sage Journals titled The Ecology of Relationships, Meeting Locations and Cohabitors, Relationships Perceptions. Sharon Sassler and others write about the research they conducted examining how 62 couples met their romantic partners. Points in the research suggested that having personal connections plays a significant role in facilitating successful relationships by introducing compatible partners because the shared networks encourage shared values, compatibility, and support, which can lead to a positive and stable relationship. However, couples who met through close ties appear to be in more homogamous pairings, meaning that they are similar in race, age, and class. These findings highlight how social networks and evolving platforms have changed the game for romantic relationships. Showing how couples meet can influence their compatibility, stability, and even diversity within their relationship. Here's a clip of an interview I took of a couple and their responses to the questions I asked them about how they met.
How did you guys meet? We met through a mutual friend. We actually got to know each other being at the slackline. Okay, cool. And then how long have you
About to say
dated?
hi. Hi. Bye.
1 year? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Social class and tax brackets have a recognizable impact on romantic relationships, shaping partners' values, expectations, and compatibility. Class influences everything from shared experiences and financial habits.
How so?
Well, these are two big factors that can directly affect two people's stability, satisfaction, and success in a relationship. Couples from similar class backgrounds may share financial goals and educational experiences, creating a sense of alignment that supports stability. Oscar Lewis introduced the culture of poverty, a sociological concept explaining how class can impact relationships, his argument being that impoverished individuals often develop specific cultural adaptations as a means of coping with financial scarcity, such as prioritizing short-term survival over long-term planning. This can influence romantic relationship in various ways as partners may differ in their financial priorities or views depending on spending and saving, depending on their class background.
Are there other factors class may affect in relationships?
Yeah, so class differences in relationships can also affect social integration, as couples may find it challenging to relate to each other's friends or family members if their lifestyles and financial resources differ significantly. Social class not only influences practical aspects of relationship, but also affects compatibility, stability, and even the likelihood of staying together long term. This concept, tied to stratification, as explained in Chapter 6, highlights how class influences life chances and therefore the kinds of social networks people form. The environments where people meet are often shaped by class, clustering individuals with similar backgrounds and values.
Well, what about more modern opportunities for relationships like dating apps?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So, today, social media and online communities diversify interactions, allowing romantic connections across different economic backgrounds. In cross-class relationships in the digital age, research shows that people from higher socioeconomic backgrounds tend to meet on professional sites, while those from more modest backgrounds often connect through broader social platforms. So, relationships formed online show more class diversity, fostering adaptability, while those formed offline often reinforce homogeneity. Social class profoundly impacts who we meet and form relationships with, influencing compatibility, stability, and shared values. With this, some clips of family I asked about my topic can help to tie in the first point Eleanor made.
Today I'm here with
Brooke and Angelo.
and I just want to ask you a few questions. So, do you guys come from different economic brackets?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, how would you say that affects your relationship?
Well, for me, I don't think it really affects really that much. I feel like we both understand where each other grew up from and our family-wise and how we grew up, so I don't think it affects that much of our relationship.
Would you say it affects your perspective on, would you say, maybe arguments or anything like that?
I feel like it doesn't, affect arguments, but, we're more open to seeing how each other think and, listening and hearing each other out.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Nina. Something that I was very interested in was how gender roles and sexuality affect romantic relationships. So, in the textbook, Conley talks about how sexuality is expressed or repressed, depending on a variety of cultural, historical, and social factors. The connection between gender and sexuality is very complex, and there were a ton of articles on these topics. So, one of the articles that I found is called Psychological Intimacy and the Lasting Relationships of Heterosexual and Same-Gender Couples. And this article had some really interesting finds about how college students specifically interact in relationships. So they mentioned that half of the college students that they sampled referred to sexual involvement as the characteristic that distinguish intimate from close relationships. So would you guys agree that your friends in college hold this perspective about intimate relationships?
Yes.
Okay, so going into this interview, I was really curious if hookup culture encourages college students to view sexual involvement as a key factor in intimate relationships, or if it has the opposite effect and sort of desensitizes people to viewing sexual involvement as not a key factor for a relationship being intimate. So here's an interview clip where I talked about it. Hi, my name is Nina, and I'm here with my friend Micah. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Micah Reedman. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a fourth year at SDSU, an elementary education major. I'm a Leo. I love long walks on the beach. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, awesome. So, the first question that I have to ask you is about hookup culture on campus, and if that sort of culture negatively impacts the way that students are viewing sexual involvement as factors for intimate relationships, or if it's like desensitizing them to sex being like the key factor between a relationship either being a friendship or being a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I think it's all very like dependent because it can be different for specific cases, but I think that excessive sex and hookup culture can be very like detrimental, especially to the psyche, and I think it has the high potential to be desensitizing. Because I think that if you are only focusing on the sex, and like that's the sole physical factor, then you're obviously not going to grow, and you're only going to focus on that, and it's going to become somewhat of like a sex addiction. But if you're incorporating other things that come with sexual acts, like the intimacy, the like personal connection, the soul tie that it creates, I think that it has the potential to kind of help you figure out what you like sexually and what you don't like sexually. And I think that that's a very healthy thing.
So, from that same article that I mentioned earlier, they reported that women in same-gender relationships compared to their heterosexual and gay counterparts were more likely to report that psychologically intimate communication characterized their relationships. So, one of the reasons that the article and the textbook used to explain this finding is the socialization differences between men and women. So the textbook explained that women are often socialized to be mothers and caregivers since birth, and therefore face societal pressure to conform to gender roles that require them to be more emotionally expressive than men, usually. There was another article that I found online, which was published by Psychology Today, which states that, quote, people who push back against traditional gender roles prioritize personal agency and have sex in the name of romantic connection and mutual pleasure as opposed to marital obligation. And are you familiar with the trad wife trend that's been really popular on Instagram and TikTok?
I am indeed, yes.
Okay, and then do you have any thoughts about how those like traditional gender roles in the media being so popular might be impacting the way that viewers are thinking about gender roles in relationships?
I do think so. I think that I'm all for women doing what they want, and if that involves kind of like cooking and cleaning for her husband, then I'm all for that. But I do think that it starts to become like a slippery slope once you see that like women are only viewed by their husbands as the dishwasher, as the chef, basically as an object that can do something, because that kind of dehumanizes the wife. And so I think that the trad wife trend is like, yeah, it's so funny, it's cool, but it's also like you have to look at like the implications that holds and see how it has like deeper meaning of men not seeing women as their equals.
That the findings that I mentioned earlier about traditional gender roles negatively impacting intimacy in romantic relationships could also be really applicable to these trad wife relationships.
Okay, and do you think that that type of content could be harmful to viewers?
I think that these videos and influencers getting so popular and gaining large followings is definitely a reflection of a change in values that the audience hold around gender roles. So I'm sure that all of their followers don't share the exact same traditional values about gender roles as these influencers. However, there's clearly many people who do agree with them and are maybe even romanticizing this lifestyle. So something that viewers aren't seeing or hearing about is how the traditional gender roles in these relationships are impacting the psychological and physical intimacy within the relationships. I'm definitely curious to see how these trad wife relationships will last in the long run and what the divorce rates are like for those specific kinds of relationships.
Hey, my name is Myra, and I will be discussing how in romantic relationships, culture may play a big factor. Culture has played a really important role in everyone's romantic relationship, but no one ever has really paid attention to this. In Chapter 3, Culture and Media, you may ask yourself, modern culture largely owes its creation to contacts between disparate groups of people, especially due to the age of exploration and colonialism. Throughout years, culture has changed in different ways. Culture has shaped the person's beliefs of how a relationship look like, and so they bring it to their relationship, and sometimes the other person has different beliefs. According to Insight into Human Nature from Cultural Psychology, it states, to a certain degree, our political and personality temperaments do seem to be inherited, but they are shaped by local cultural messages too. This explains how inside and outside culture has many effects in relationships. Culture can be hard in relationships. For example, some people celebrate Halloween and some don't. Even though this is something easy that can be fixed, there are higher problems like marriage rules, etc.
So, what do you mean by marriage rules in cultures?
So I mean that in some cultures, you need to get married before having kids, but in others, you don't. It's not mandatory. Sometimes people don't get married even after having kids just because it's a healthier way to keep their relationship healthy. But if someone's culture is very against it, their relationship can take negative route. Here's a clip of how a couple I interviewed about how culture plays in their relationship. Hello, my name is Maya, and I'm here with Annie. And today we're going to be talking about how culture affects someone's romantic relationship. Are you and your boyfriend from the same culture?
No, not at all. So I'm from I'm Samoan and he is white, so he kind of shares that American culture.
Would you say this benefits your relationship or it does not?
I would say that I feel like we do benefit because we see different perspectives and we're able to see our differences and know that we have a different kind of worldview. And I'm able to share my culture with someone that I love, and then he's able to like learn about my culture and learn more about me through that. And for his culture, it's kind of difficult. That might be somewhere where we struggle. And it's kind of hard to find where.
So would you say you guys have some similarities in cultures or some?
I would say we don't have any. I mean, I am American. I've lived here my whole life, but so I guess I would. Yes, yeah, we do have similarities.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Rowena, and I'll be discussing the racial aspect of dating. I've definitely learned that race can have a huge impact on a relationship, whether it's interracial relationships or same-race relationships. Race plays a significant role in shaping romantic relationships by influencing their dynamics.
I would understand that with older generations, but is that something that's like still prevalent within our generation, especially in college students?
Well, that's also why I went ahead and interviewed a interracial relationship that goes to college currently. People may not often think about how it affects those within our dating pool. However, a study by Eshman explored how college students of color navigate their racial identities in the context of dating, revealing the complex ways that racial identity affects partner choice and relationship dynamics on campus. The study found that racial identities strongly predict interracial dating patterns for Black and Asian students, while Hispanic students were more likely to date interracially. The study highlights the importance of racial identity and school environments, such as the proportion of white students, influence these patterns. The research allows a better understanding of how college students of color navigate interracial relationships in racially charged environments. Felder adds to this by addressing the personal choice of dating exclusively within one's race, emphasizing the right to such preferences without social stigma. Similarly, Rao discusses the unique challenges of interracial relationships.
What kind of challenges would those be?
Things such as how society would perceive the relationship and the cultural differences are highlighted as potential obstacles within the relationship, and it connects to sociological theories on race and relationships, as noted in Conley's textbook, which suggests that people are often open to interracial interactions, but tend to wait for the other person to make the first move. So this may show that people aren't necessarily uncomfortable with dating other races, but more uncomfortable with the idea of stepping outside their comfort zone, unsure of how to approach someone of a different race. Together, these perspectives underscore how race, whether within or across racial lines, affects both personal preferences and social experiences in modern dating. I think looking at race and the success of a relationship is important because if you look at divorce rates, statistics released by Forbes shows that divorce rates are lower and marriage rates are higher for white couples and Latino couples, while the opposite is true for Black couples.
Oh, really? That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I would attribute this to how different races view the institution of marriage. A lot of Black men are incarcerated or unemployed, meaning that marriage rates will likely be lower because of the quote unquote lack of good men around. Therefore, understanding this while being in both interracial and same race relationships could be a key factor in understanding your partner and seeing where they stand on the idea of marriage and their expectations. So, doing this could lead to healthier and therefore more successful relationships.
A critical issue that relates to romantic relationships is the reality of divorce rates. According to the website Revealing Divorce Statistics in 2024, run by Christy Bieber, JD, 43% of first marriages end in divorce, 60% of second marriages, and 73% of third marriages. Getting divorced takes a lot more time and money than you would expect. Divorce usually takes over a year to finalize. In addition, divorce costs an average of $7,000.
You'd think people wouldn't divorce as often because of how expensive it is, yet no matter how much money people have, it still gets done.
Yeah, and another point I wanted to add on was that I read about in the article was that having friends who are divorced increases your risk of divorce. Bieber suggests that marital stability within a couple's social network affects how long their own relationship will last. Couples who have friends who divorce have a 75% increase in the risk of their marriage ending. I thought this was important to add on because it relates to my previous topic of social networks and how the people you surround yourself with all play a role in your life and the directions you take in life.
Well, we hope that what we said here today resonated with you guys and you can take away something that you can maybe apply to your current or future relationships. Thanks for listening.
Bye!